bring in our old buddy Thom Perez, the chair of the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, the former U.S. Secretary of Labor. Democrats.org, of course, their website. You can tweet him at Thom Perez. And Secretary Perez, welcome back to the program.
Tom, it's great to be back with you and all of your listeners.
Thank you. A couple of things that I wanted to touch base with you on. I certainly want to get into the whole superdelegate thing. I think that's a big deal, and I wanted to talk to you also about the this Whip the Vote campaign. But before we get to that, real quickly, I'm wondering, what's the deal with the DNC saying that they'll take fossil fuel money again?
Well, we didn't take any fossil fuel money, Tom. I've been on the DNC for 18 months. We haven't. We've had controls in place, and that has been the result. And there was a resolution offered, notwithstanding the fact that we've taken no money, that really didn't consult with folks in the labor movement. Climate change is real. We've got to address it, and we've addressed it in a number of ways here at the DNC. And what I was concerned about with a resolution that addressed a problem that wasn't really a problem, as I just explained, was that if we're going to address climate change, we've got to make sure we have everyone at the table. And I've been working very closely with people like Gina McCarthy, people in the labor movement, the environmental movement. As we move to a clean energy economy, we've got to make sure we move together. And the earlier resolution, frankly, excluded a lot of workers from that conversation. And so what we're trying to do now, and what we are doing, is we're convening all the stakeholders, very similar to a Blue-Green Alliance that has been an area where I've addressed that group, bringing labor and environmentalists together as we move to an economy that is truly a clean economy, but an economy that works for everybody.
So am I understanding that what you're saying is that the DNC wanted to be able to include contributions from workers and unions that are in the extractive industries or the fossil fuel industry who had been locked out? Is that what I'm understanding? We've taken no money, Tom. This was really frustrating, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, it is to me, too, because I'm getting all kinds of calls about this, and the media is like blowing this whole thing up. I'm sorry.
And it's frustrating. It was a resolution that addressed a problem that was non-existent.
Right.
And it did so in a way that excluded workers and frankly made many of our colleagues in the labor movement feel like they had been demonized. And that's not right. And so we move forward, and we are continuing to move forward. We're convening a meeting in a few weeks with, again, folks from the labor movement, folks from the environmental movement. These are folks that I've worked with over the course of my career, working on environmental justice issues, working on labor justice issues. I think we're at our best when we build a big table and when we solve our challenges together, and that's exactly what we're doing. That's what we did in our reform issues that resulted in last week's meeting at the DNC.
Let's talk about that.
That was all about growing the party, Tom, all about uniting the party, all about restoring people's trust in the party. Mm-hmm. And we passed some very, very important reforms that are designed to make our primaries and our caucuses more accessible. And frankly, there's going to be less caucuses and more primaries in 2020 as a result of the work that we are doing. The caucuses that do exist are going to be more inclusive, so that if you work in shift work, you don't have to win the boss lottery or else take unpaid leave to exercise your right to vote. If you're a veteran deployed overseas, you ought to be able to vote absentee in a caucus, things of that nature. And then the reform that has probably generated the most attention is the reforms around so-called superdelegates. Superdelegates have never decided the selection of the nominee, but there are many people who firmly believe that they have affected their sense of whether the process has been fair. And this issue isn't new. It's been around for years. And what we did was pass reforms that say that superdelegates will not vote on the first ballot unless the outcome has already been decided. And I think this is going to go a long way toward really restoring people's trust in the party, earning people's trust, in the party, sending a clear signal that we want our grassroots to decide who the nominee will be in 2020. And we're going to have perhaps a double-digit field of candidates for president. All but one are going to be disappointed because they're not going to make it to the mountaintop. My goal is to make sure at the end of the process, Tom, that everybody feels like their candidate got a fair shake and the process was fair. And I think these reforms are going to go a long way toward ensuring that and strengthening people's confidence in our party.
That is great. There is an effort to encourage Democratic senators to go on the record saying that they will oppose the Kavanaugh nomination of the Supreme Court. Does the DNC get involved in that sort of thing, this whip the vote effort, or is that more for the elected politicians to be doing? I mean, is there a position that you guys hold on that?
Well, I mean, we've taken we spent a lot of time on the Kavanaugh nomination, and if I were a U.S. senator, I would certainly vote against his nomination. It's very clear to me that our health care is at risk if he becomes the ninth justice of the Supreme Court. It's clear to me that women's reproductive rights are at risk. It's clear to me that whenever the question was, do I support a large corporation or do I support ordinary workers, he always sided with large corporations, and that's not what we need in the ninth justice. And so that's what I would do if I were in the Senate. It's going to obviously be up to every senator to make their decision. What bothers me as much as anything, Tom, is that we can't and shouldn't have a vote until we've gotten all the information. When I was nominated for labor secretary, they wouldn't hold a hearing until I provided all this information, and that was not for a lifetime appointment. Right. And by the way, we provided all the information, and everyone had a chance to review it, because that's how the process works.
But the Republicans are hiding information about Brett Kavanaugh's time in the White House.
Exactly. This is very relevant stuff, and it goes to the heart of the matter of whether he's going to be fair and impartial. We heard from John Roberts he was just going to be an umpire. Well, that turned out to be a very not so accurate statement, and we need to know more about this candidate, which is why I think it's so important that we get access to full information. They in 2016 said you shouldn't put a nomination forward when you're in the throes of an election cycle. We're in the throes of an election cycle with a president who was under a cloud of controversy because of the culture of corruption and the notion that he could get a second bite at the apple with a second justice of the Supreme Court. We're going to keep fighting like heck to make sure that doesn't happen. Yeah,
good on you. Anything else going on with the DNC that you want to let us know about? We're talking to Thom Perez.
70 days, Tom, until the most important election of our lifetime, and we've been organizing everywhere, working in partnership with state parties, with the labor movement, with the Indivisible chapters, other emerging organizations, legacy organizations. I come to you with great optimism because I've never seen this kind of energy out there. If there's a silver lining to this president, it's that people have awakened to the fact that democracy can never be a spectator sport. And I have a lot of faith and confidence that we can get out there, not only take the House, but I recognize the Senate is more of an uphill climb. But, people said, you're not going to win Alabama, and look what happened. So we're fighting like heck, and we're not only fighting on the federal races, we're fighting to help take over state houses. I was in Wisconsin with Tony Evers, who's going to be the next governor. He's going to take down Scott Walker. Was with him on Sunday on the Wisconsin campus organizing students. When people get out there and vote and organize their neighbors to vote, that's how we win. And so 70 days till the weekend. That's our motto at the DNC, and we're going to work every single day to help elect Democrats up and down the ticket. If people have any questions about how to get involved, iwillvote.com is how they can get to us. iwillvote.com.
Okay, iwillvote.com. Last question. There was an article in Politico last week that suggested that the voter suppression, specifically the voter purges, have been so aggressive in Florida that there are actually fewer registered voters in Florida today than there were 2 years ago. And in a number of other states, we're seeing similar trends. ever since the Supreme Court legalized the caging that the Republican Party had been under a court order to prevent since the 60s or the 80s. And you know, where they send out the postcard, and if you don't send it back, then they knock you off the voting rolls. Ohio had been doing that. They won at the Supreme Court. Now other Republican-controlled states are aggressively doing it. Is the DNC, you know, on this?
Absolutely. We've been building for some time a voter protection infrastructure. I'm very familiar with the National Voter Registration Act, the NVRA, the so-called motor voter law. Section 8 pertains to the unlawful purgings that you're talking about. And let me give you an example. You know, in Ohio, which was an epicenter of voter purging, Tom, the Supreme Court gave a green light to the types of unlawful purging that they were doing. However, because we are close enough to the election, the voters cannot be purged because Section 8 prohibits purging activity in the run-up to an election. And what that means is that the Secretary of State race in Ohio, just to give listeners a sense, if the Republican wins that race, there are quite literally roughly 1 million voters who are in danger of getting purged from Ohio. If the Democrat, a woman named Kathleen Clyde, wins that race, and we've endorsed her, we've been working with her, she's going to win, then we save those voters.
Wow.
Voter suppression is a permanent staple in the Republican playbook. We need to understand that and build the infrastructure to prevent it and elect Democrats so that in this redistricting cycle, we can actually draw fair districts.
There you go. Former Secretary of Labor, DNC Chairman Thom Perez. Secretary Perez, thanks so much for dropping by.
Pleasure to be with you, Tom.
It is always great talking with you, and I always learn something. I really appreciate it. Democrats.org, the website. IWillVote.com, Secretary?
Yes.
IWillVote.com. We'll get it. We'll promote it. Thank you so much.